Primates, honestly, I had very less clue. But then when in just very, very small lecture, you had explained me how no, the kingdom is divided, Strepsirrhini and all of that. So I think that fell very naturally. In beforehand, only you used to explain, okay, so these thoughts will come in your mind, but you have to dodge them. These things you will feel like quitting. You will feel like, okay, this thing I can leave, this thing I will leave. But you think no, that others will be competing ahead of you if you're thinking that way. Such consistently, sir, it was your support that I was able to manage anthropology if I specifically pointed out the direction we do require. And that's where, as in your role also comes into play, sir. Like you have always guided that, okay, these answers you should remember, these scripts you should remember, just revise, revise, revise. And those answers were very helpful, sir.
What kind of advice would you like to leave our students with who are watching, our viewers?
As in one advice which I would like to just say is
So, hi everyone. Today I'm very happy to be joined by Punisha. She is ranked 846 in this year's UPSC. Punisha is very special for me. She has written her very first mains this year, and a lot of the preparation came in these 2.5 months. Of course, she had a good amount of prep prior as well, but she worked extremely hard. In her very first main, she's been able to get a rank, and she's been able to find her name in the list. So, Punisha, first of all, many congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. And to be honest, I'm very happy to be having this conversation with you today, after the rank list.
thank you so much, sir. The pleasure is all mine. I'm really grateful for you, sir. As in all throughout, you have been an immense support, an immense mentor, sir. Thank you to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for having me also and making me as in live my dream. Thank you, sir.
Right, right. But you've been a great student as well. So this is not the first conversation that we're having. 2, 3 hours since the result has come, right? And I've already congratulated you. But tell a little bit, where were you when the result had come? How did you celebrate the results?
So, I was over. I was at my office when the result news came, and I got a call from you as well just soon after, and I was really happy. All my colleagues were happy. My senior boss, she was also very happy. My friends, people had come to meet me, and it was an exhilarating experience. So it's very recent and very new. So just absorbing the feeling. And I called my mom from the office, and she was very happy and all, sir, very, very overwhelming, sir.
Did anybody get any work done in the office today since results had been released?
Yes, sir, office goes on. Yes, yes.
Office
There
goes.
was work already. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, 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 got it. So this is so Punisha is a good example, and I think you'll be inspiration for a lot of people who are also balancing with work, right? I remember that you had to take time off for your mains, sort of fight karna pada in order to get some time off so that you can focus and prepare. Um, how is that? Having other sort of responsibilities, having to write your very first mains must be very difficult to sort of balance things. How did you manage that?
So, yes, it was a little difficult, but at the same time, when you have such good mentors and when you have it in your head that yes, you need to crack it, you need to do it this time, and it's not easy, definitely it is not. It requires a lot of hard work, lot of consistency, and at the same time, that same fire has to be there. Like as you were saying in the classes, like that same fire has to be there in you from the day one, and you have to maintain that thing. Like initially, when I was starting with the preparation, it was so overwhelming that I was like, "This also has to be done. This also has to be done." There are so many things, and then when you get a little guidance in terms of channel, which was in the form as what you gave in the classes, so that was more streamlined in a way. Otherwise, it was a lot to do. But as you said, so we have to maintain that consistency throughout. And there is no other way wherein we can think to do less and then think that yes, we'll succeed. That is not the game. As in the thing is, we have to do it, we have to burn in the fire, as you said. And eventually, then we can think that, okay, we can think to be deserving in the list.
Right, right, right. So, so you mentioned that, a lot of hard work and a lot of consistency, right? I remember, the first month after your prelims, you were in a position wherein, you had a lot of stress, anxiety, ye karna hai, wo karna hai. You had a lot of areas of anthropology that you kind of thought that it is your weak areas, right? And eventually you found a way to sort of get all those things under your control. What kind of mindsets should students have right after prelims?
Definitely, sir. Like, in fact, in anthropology, there were a few areas which normally people are little not that well prepared. And same was the case with me. But then when you streamlined, you explained it very nicely that, okay, these are the areas which you need to focus. And at the same time, that, for example, scholars, we cannot afford to not have the names of scholars. And initially, I remember that I was so puzzled with all those names and all those theories as well. And I was calling you many a times that, okay, so how many names are sufficient and how many are not? And you were like, you cannot think of not having to remember names of scholars and then thinking that, okay, your paper will go fine. No, that is the only thing. And that you have to do until the end, you keep on saying, okay, Buller, for example, is for forest. You need to remember that. You need to remember that. So always just pinpointing, just like a woodpecker, you are hitting on the same spot consistently. And then you're like, this has to be remembered, this has to be done. So I think for me, more importantly, it was very streamlined since it was my very first mains, and that you did it, sir, as in you clarify that, okay, these are the things which you need to do, these are the things which concisely has to be remembered. So that direction for me was very important, sir, and I got it from you. And as you had asked about how to balance it with work, it was a little difficult, but at the same time, 2.5 months is also a short period for you to reproduce a lot of things which is required for this exam. But at the same time, it's a short window for you to maintain that very high energy which you need to maintain. Which, had it been a very longer window, it could have been waned out. Of course, there are a lot of sincerity is required. But for you to maintain a very high level of energy for a 2.5 month period is difficult, but it is achievable. It's not that. So we require a lot of streams, which I got it in the form of your guidance, and that's how I was able to maintain that higher energy in those 2.5 months of period. Because I remember I had a lot of weak areas in anthropology. I had not that well prepared before the results of prelims were out. And I had to do a lot of things, be it fossils, be it primates. And primates, honestly, I had very less clue. But then when in just very, very small lecture, you had explained me how the kingdom is divided, Strepsirrhini and all of that. So I think that fell very naturally. And writing the exams, taking sectional tests, and you were always there. I mean, you beforehand only you used to explain the, okay, so these thoughts will come in your mind, but you have to dodge them. These things you will feel like quitting. You will feel like, okay, this thing I can leave, this thing I will leave. But you think that others will be competing ahead of you if you're thinking that ways. So you kept on that fire for so long time and for such consistently, sir. It was your support that I was able to manage anthropology, if I specifically point it out.
Right, right, right. You, by the way, a very good communicator. How did your interview go? Just
It
last
it
week,
went
a week
fine,
or two
sir.
ago?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was last week only. It was on 26th of February. So it went fine, but I had mixed feelings, sir. Since it was my first interview, I had given a few marks. But then in my interview, I think so they were a little exhausted by the time my time came, because they had asked me very few questions. I was expecting little current affairs because having so many things going on right now. But they didn't ask me much of current affairs. They asked me a lot about my job, present profile. But in that also, they could have hit upon some current areas which I was expecting. But of course, our expectations are definitely not met in interview in terms of what we are being asked. So that was not there. So they asked me a lot about my job, which I was able to answer and address to pretty well. And in Delhi, although there are many issues, right from schools, right from education, then sewage, then water pipelines and waste disposal and pollution. But what they asked me about Delhi was traffic per se, which is not that much. So I hadn't pondered and prepared that aspect little well. But I was able to answer them a bit. And they had asked me about my hobbies. And in hobbies also, the typical question is that what is the last thing which you read? Because I had written reading novels, literary fiction, and writing blogs and poems. So, but they didn't ask me that. So they asked me specific distinction about novel and novella, which is technically, it's a technical definition. So I managed that. I managed with that. And apart from that, he recited a couple of lines about a poem, and he asked me about the author, the person who has written that poem. So that's how it went. And they asked me about Operation Sindoor and the role of PIB because I work in the Press Information Bureau. So they asked me a lot about my job, basically. It was a lot centered on that. And how will I manage a crisis communication situation? Had I been an information officer? So how will I handle that? Okay, a media goof up doesn't happen like how it happened with the other time when India was engaged in war, and a media goof up, it disclosed Indian coordinates to Pakistani terrorists. So that was also there, but it was majorly centered on my job and my accommodation. But it could have been on my college. I prepared a lot on my college since my both parents were working, so I prepared on that those sectors as well. But they didn't ask me that. They didn't ask me about my optional. So overall, I had mixed feelings after the interview, sir. How has it went with regard to how has it went?
Got it, got it. Uh, so we'll have to wait and see about the results and the scores for each of the subjects. But generally, you see, right? It is generally mains and mains के marks that actually creates the rank. ठीक है? And that's why, doing it in your very first attempt, I had basically asked, some students, if you have any questions for, the toppers. And one of the questions that was asked is that we have one attempt and only one attempt, right? Without any pressure, with, backing and no tension, stress, and all of this. How do we really ensure that, we use that whole 1 year? Okay, so if you can just divide it to pre-prelims phase and post-prelims phase, right? So far as anthropology is concerned, what would you suggest? And how important is foundation being very strong?
So it is extremely important. It is extremely important. We cannot think of getting into it with half preparation, even 75% of preparation. We have to be, as far as our capability is concerned, we have to be more prepared so that we can expect that, okay, it's just like you'll aim for the moon and so that you may fall among the stars. It's just like that. As in, we have to be more than our capacity. We have to be prepared. And prelims require different set of preparation. I have realized this very much in this particular year. Prelims require a very different set of preparation. Mains require totally different approach. An interview altogether is a little different kind of a game. And coming to mains, that short window requires very concerted and very focused approach. Not in terms of everything and anything, but a lot of things has to be done in a particular way, has to be done in a channelized way, and that requires guidance. So like we cannot have preemptive thoughts that okay, this is the direction we do require, and that's where, as in your role also comes into place. So like in one, as you were just saying that in one attempt, so if we are very much channelizing and we are very much pre-planning that okay, prelims, all this is required. Once we feel that okay, all this has been done, then we can think of taking the attempt. Prelims, and before prelims only, mains has to be prepared in some or the other way. We have to be like proportionately, we have to be prepared for mains as well. And then when we get the time, we get the name in the list. That itself acts as a booster for motivation that okay, we have to prepare for mains now. So as in different approaches, clarity in thought, clarity in direction, and then I think so it's good to go to give as an attempt.
Right, right. And you mentioned that it is concerted and has to be channelized and it requires some guidance. Can you just elaborate? What kind of guidance did you use? Like, what did we do? What was your journey or our
Yeah,
journey in
definitely.
2.5 months?
Definitely. So, like for example, we used to have the weekly tests, which you always used to say that you will feel that okay, you are not prepared enough. You are not prepared enough at any day, even when you're giving your mains, you'll feel that you are not prepared enough. But to, as you used to always say that don't think that you will want to escape. No, that cannot be the solution. Maybe you will get 40% initially in the first test, but you cannot think of skipping the tests. So every week we used to have tests of the sectional areas of specific areas. Then we had another cycle of the full length test, which we did in the practice series. So that was very helpful for me. So I had given, or I think so, I've given all the sectional tests and the full length tests and the suggestions which I used to get from you. So the feedback which you used to give me, be it in terms of embedding more scholars, be it in terms of, like, I remember initially I was elaborating a lot since I like writing. So I was elaborating and I wasn't able to complete my paper. And it was, you always used to say, no, you have to think of completing it in this time. And you were not very overarchingly saying it because in first two papers, you're like, okay, fine. जितने घंटों में हो रहा है उतने घंटों में try करो. Gradually you will decrease it, and that's how it happened. As in initially it was I was trying too hard to cut down my length of answers, but then I got a direction from you. I got those feedback. I tried to incorporate it as much as I could till the time I gave all the tests. And eventually, so I also remember you saying that, okay, draw diagrams like this. Okay, so you have to, it's only the first 35 pages of your 50-page answer sheet that will decide that you are there in the list or not. So that also was when I was actually attempting my mains, it was coming into my head that, okay, I have to put this, I have to put this, I don't have to leave any answer as blank, because everything and anything will not be knowing, as you said. But something or the other has to be put in. 10 markers, maybe it would be there that we may not know them. But 15 markers, we have to put in content. We have to put in quality. We have to write in a little neat way. And with regard to diagrams, I also drew diagrams with pencil. And as you said that, okay, so diagrams, for example, the cave paintings which were there. So you said that, okay, you have to draw them not like anything and anything under the roof, under the sun, but it has to be a little systematic way. So that gives a little visual insight to the person who is checking. So all those feedbacks were very helpful, sir. And not only that, in fact, the answers which you used to give us after the classes, they were immensely helpful, sir. Like, you have always guided that, okay, these answers you should remember, these scripts you should remember, just revise, revise, revise. And those answers were very helpful, sir, be it in terms of having a lot of scholars, be it in terms of having a lot of examples. Because I had prepared earlier, but I had not had that kind of content, honestly, as in terms of examples, in terms of, because in anthropology, we have a lot of examples of different tribes, of different societies, of culture. And those examples were very good. And when you used to explain the answers in the class, so that was also very helpful, because with that, it used to, as in, get imprinted in your head when you are repeatedly saying it in the class. Like, this particular scholar is associated with this, LP Vidyarthi is associated with this. So you cannot afford to not forget it. You also used to say that Dongriya Kond, don't always write Dongriya Kond only. In your entire paper, it should not be that only you're writing about that particular tribe. It should be a mix of a lot of things. So all of that, sir, as in, I've just tried to work what you on what you just said. So that's how I managed to get in the list.
Right, right, right. And also you mentioned about the content. So see, content wise also it's a big challenge for many students because वो content increase करते रहते हैं. And in today's time period, to make a lot of content becomes a lot easier. So it also gives FOMO. Every time you are exposed to more content, you feel कि अरे ये सब हमें करना पड़ता है. But one of the things that I generally suggest, and I think you did that, and you had mentioned this as well, that you have to try to limit it. जो आपको चाहिए रखो, but use it again and again and again. Right? ये वाले topic के लिए so and so, so and so. Right? These are the kind of diagrams that you want, and of course, the quality of the diagram also matters. If you're drawing a painting, it better look like that actual painting. Correct?
Okay.
ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
At
Yes,
least
sir.
the
Sure.
skeletal kind of structure, it should be there and things like that. Okay, so that is another one. And overall, right, so you felt just feedback from you, right? So, if we give you that kind of an approach, jahan pe you have these writing sessions mein, I think you must have done last 5-10 years ke pure PYQs. I remember you saying this, that, most of the PYQs were already covered. ठीक है, and then, you practiced and you also mentioned that you were almost, I think, like all the test sectionals and FLTs and all you did. And that too, it's very
Yes,
difficult to feel like you are ready. ठीक है कि ये हो गया. ठीक है, it feels very, but
yes,
as
sir.
you said, करना है तो करना है. Correct, and then you just went
Yes,
ahead
sir.
and did
Yes,
it.
sir.
Okay, okay. So that
Yes,
is
sir.
so
And you always used to push for that, that you'll never feel that you are 100% prepared, but you need to attempt it. You cannot afford to escape from it.
hmm. Because if you think that you're going to be perfect, that means पूरा अच्छा सा structure है, speed है, handwriting है, diagram है, scholars है, internalization है. It's not going to happen. One thing at a time, right? And then eventually you'll get to that particular
Yes,
point.
sir.
Right, right. Were you able to complete the
Yes, sir.
papers?
Yes, sir. I was able to complete. I remember initially, when I started preparing, I took a lot of amount of time when I attempted for the when I gave my very first test, the sectional test, which was there as part of your series. So, but then gradually I decreased, and I have struggled with speed a lot. But by the time it was the time to actually give main, so that time I was able to manage it. That, okay, at home I was giving it in 3 hours, 10 minutes. 3 hour 5 minutes, 3 hour 15 minutes. And on the final day, of course, I had not attempted like 10 markers. I had attempted as you had suggested in the last only. And in fact, sir, the time window was also very helpful, which you had suggested that okay, 50 marks have to be done in 35 minutes. Like that's how you have to time it, and you have to attempt that. Okay, this particular section is the entire paper. Then the next 50 marks you should consider as a next section altogether, next test altogether. So you have to maintain that speed in a calibrated form. That every 35 minutes you should be able to deliver certain marks. So that's how I've tried. As in, of course, this to stick to it very strictly is not possible. But yeah, when we try to do it in that framework, it eventually the overall product comes as little. It falls in place, and that has helped me a lot. So when it comes, and I did complete my paper. Like few of the 10 markers I didn't know, but I had managed to write something or the other about it. But no, nothing in the paper was like it was blank. So that was there.
Good, good. So, you know, there is always going to be some questions that we don't know. Okay. The most important thing is that you're mentally prepared कि ऐसे भी questions आने वाले. ठीक है पूरा 50 is not going to be doable, but if we have 35 40 pages वहां पे अच्छे से करना. Okay, so being mentally prepared now, so that way when you see those kind of things, it doesn't scare you. You're writing another answer, you're not thinking कि अरे वो एक question मुझे नहीं आता या दो question मुझे नहीं आते. Right, so that is important. In fact,
Yes.
the timing wala thing also, you remember so many things so well, and it's been many months since the exam. So the thing that she is mentioning about 35 minutes is that what we had as a target is that think of this as five small tests. Panch question blocks honge, usko use it as five mini tests within that test, and each of them 35 35 35 35 agar rakhoge तो it becomes 175 minutes. 5-10 minute तो यहाँ वहाँ तो जाएंगे तो, but
Mm.
at least you have this idea, you know, last 1 hour should not be something that is a huge sort of a rush. That is good.
Mm. Yes,
So
sir.
that is excellent. You know, by the way, very inspiring. Okay, so you know, considering that you came in primates, hominins, and like fossils and archaeo, you were having a little bit of difficulty. You crossed it, ठीक है, and you managed to do it in 2.5 months. Lot of good advice. ठीक है, और मिलेंगे. मतलब I'll be coming to Delhi, so we will catch up. ठीक है, you can give more sort of advice. I will
Yes,
also try
sure.
to get more questions from both students who are going to write it, and also the students who have tried this year but for some reason you know they have not been able to sort of make it. So anyways, congratulations, you know, really congratulations, because
Thank
I really feel कि एक दिन आएगा चांस मेंस के लिए. ठीक है, it's very difficult to say कि कब आएगा. ठीक है, but of course you know वो prelims
you.
में
Bye.
थोड़ा सा you know it really depends कि you know did you go for C here या D here, UPSC is going to give B here या C here, so ये होता है. But when you get that one chance for mains, be prepared. ठीक है, and let's say कि थोड़ा सा inadequately prepared हैं आप, doesn't matter. See, what 2.5 months, just like what she said, okay, you know, 2.5 months, you just have to fight it. Okay, give your level best. Okay, get into that service. And इस बार तो मतलब we'll go for rank improvement. Imagine if you could do this in 2.5 months, कितना करेंगे
Yes.
इस बार? ठीक है? Mhm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and you will. I will leave the last word to you. What kind of advice would you like to leave our students with, who are watching you, our viewers?
As in one advice which I would like to just say is it's not something which is not doable. It's very much doable, but you should know what you are stepping into. You should know what it requires and what it requires. It doesn't require anything and everything. It requires very channelized kind of approach. Something you have to be very clear in terms of what you are reading, from where you are reading. It doesn't require everything and anything, but it requires a lot of things put in the right directions, put in the right amount. And yes, it's not something not doable. It is very much doable. So with consistency, with little more clarity, with little more channelized and directions, I think so. It is a doable feat, sir. And also, so all the best to all the people who are appearing, all the students who are appearing. And yes, if I can make it, I think so that anyone can make it. So thank you, and all the best to all of you who are appearing.
Great. Thank you so much, Punisha. And hopefully, you know, for the rest of them, it's
Thank you
been
so
good
much.
advice. But थोड़ा सा एक और detailed discussion करेंगे with your question paper. What did you approach? How did you approach? ठीक है? And वो सब हम करेंगे. In a couple of days, we'll meet
Yes,
in
sir.
Delhi as well. ठीक है? Enjoy. Hopefully your
Thank you.
family and all, you know, मतलब पूरा celebration होगा, I'm assuming, right? And have fun.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes,
You
sir.
know, enjoy the moment. Let it soak in.
Thank you.
Right? Okay? Chalo. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
Take
sir.
care. Bye.